Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another still surviving installment of Club Moffat Talks. Very nice to be with you today. My name is Chris, Digital Services Librarian and your host.
I'm Joseph McNeely. I am the instruction librarian.
Ryan Samuelson. I am the Associate University Librarian.
Stephen Schutte, the Director of Military and Adult Education.
Nice to have you with us today, Stephen. Thank you for coming on. Um, Before we get into what all you do here, I thought we would just go ahead and do our roundtable like we usually do. Just say whatever it is we're interested in, whatever we're kind of digging into lately. Who wants to start us off?
I'll go. The third season of Strange New Worlds is out. I think it's one of the best Star Trek series that's been on television for many a decade at this point. That's all I'll say. I mean, I'll say it's very good. I will say this is the third season. They're being very gimmicky. Although a friend of mine who is a Star Trek fanatic goes, "Well, the third season of the original series is pretty gimmicky too, Ryan. So don't complain about it." I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Is that really all you wanted to say, Ryan?
Yeah, pretty much. I've
Okay.
been out for a week. I had family in town, and so I've actually been out for a week. So I haven't done a whole lot except entertain my folks at this point. So
Yeah. Uh, we have family stuff happening this month because we have a bunch of birthdays this month. My wife's birthday, my son-in-law's birthday, our second daughter's birthday is all this month. Kind of clumped together toward the end. Um, I've watched the first couple of episodes of that third season of Strange New Worlds, and I've been really enjoying it too, but I'm not caught up with it. And It's like my wife had lost interest in it for very real, valid reasons, but I've been continuing to reread the Wheel of Time series, and I've gotten to book 8 now that I just started. We saw the Superman movie,
Looks like it.
and the I think the non-spoiler review that I gave of it was that I really liked what they did with Mr. Terrific. Um, but yeah, we've been struggling with finding TV shows to watch that are the right mix of entertaining and interesting. Uh, we're we're currently trying to see what life is like without the specific streaming service of Netflix, and we know that there's some things that's going to be coming there, and we're like, well, after we know there's some stuff there, we'll get that again. But right now, we're trying to do without. So yeah, just a little bit of a drought of continuing series currently. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Would you like me to go first, Stephen, or?
Sure, go ahead. I can, yeah.
Yeah, well, I've had a cold and I feel awful, so I don't really like I had planned on talking about how smart and cultured I am with talking about a bunch of films that I've been watching recently. Because I resurrected my Letterboxd account and I was like, wow, I have a whole lot of stuff here that I need to watch. So I watched some good movies and now I'm like, I don't feel like like, I don't want to talk about anything right now. I feel horrible. So instead, I'll say my wife and I tried to very slowly enjoy the new season of King of the Hill. Um, I loved it. Um, if if nobody knows a whole lot about me, King of the Hill is my comfort show. It's more than The Simpsons for me. It's more than like I say Twin Peaks is my favorite show. King of the Hill is my put it on, watch it anytime show. More than It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because there are some kind of stinker seasons for that show that really aren't that great. King of the Hill is just a perfect watch, just from start to finish. And this new season, it's like a time jump. It's like several years have passed, and it's current day um, Texas, and Hank and Peggy have been in Saudi Arabia or Saudi Arabia, as Peggy calls it. So they come back, and America is quite a bit different from 12 years ago. So it's kind of about them getting back into the swing of things and getting reintroduced into like current American culture. It's just as funny as it was before. It's kind of sad not seeing some characters around, but it's still Mike Judge at his peak. So I think last time I might have also said that I was trying to keep watching The Bear, but I think I hate that show, so I'm not watching it anymore. Uh, we got about halfway through actually, no, we might have like 2 episodes left in the most recent season, and I don't think I'm gonna finish it. That show is miserable and it makes me feel bad watching it, so I'm not gonna do it anymore. And that's really it. I haven't read any books. I'm almost up to Lake Town reading The Hobbit with my oldest daughter. I have an illustrated copy of The Hobbit, and she just wants me to go back and look at the full page illustration of the Shire and also the full page illustration of Smog sitting on his stack of gold. It's like a cover of one of the copies of that book.
Are those the originals that I think Tolkien actually drew
I think
himself?
so. I think so because they're sporadically placed
Watercolor?
throughout the book. Um, there are images of it's the Shire, the mountains, the eagles.
That might be his original watercolor
I
paintings that
I
he did.
I believe it is because I know the picture of Smog near the end of the book is one that is used for the cover. I think of the greater illustrated one or like the author's notes or something copy of that book. But I mean, Tolkien obviously did a great job because every single time we read the book, it's just I want to see Bilbo's home, and I want to see the dragon. I want to see Bilbo's home again. Can we look at the eagles? I'm like, I'm trying to read the book to you. Just be quiet. Shush. I want to get to reading the dragon in the scary voice. Darn it. But I do it anyway because we'll look at the picture of Hobbiton and she'll be like, "Is that where Bilbo lives up here with the tree?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's Bilbo's home." She said, and then there's the road. It goes here and here and here and here and here, and it goes right here to Bilbo's home. I'm like, yep, you know it. That's what we've said it 20 times tonight. So that's a very slow process, but I just am so happy that she loves like reading an actual book and not just like bedtime stories. Like she wants to read this continuing book with me at night, and so I guess technically I have been reading that.
Okay.
But like I said, I've had a cold and my throat is on fire. So please go ahead.
Yeah, and so something I've got going on. I'm in between grad school, finished up with the summer semester, and pick up in fall. But I was like, you know what, I want to try and fit in something that I can read, not for academic purposes, not for like, what I would like to think of as on the job. And actually, something I've come across, and I'm really excited about it, is a science fiction novel called Hammer Slammers, military science fiction by David Drake.
Hmm.
I really don't know much about it, but based on what I had read, just with the overview of what it's about, being as a ex-army tanker myself, it's basically the premise of a tank commander, a tank regiment commander, has gone off from active service into the mercenary world and is put together, off in the distant future. So think kind of Starship Troopers meets tanks, meets maybe a little bit of a StarCraft kind of feel to it.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to probably explore some. I think it's going to have some great action, but I also think it's going to explore some deeper questions about the moral ambiguity around mercenaries for hire, fighting an armed conflict, the socio-political, all of those implications that come behind that are still real world today, that are going on in real world times. Oops.
Yeah, I read it, God, probably this is my age, close to 40 years ago. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't remember much about it, unfortunately. If you're interested in tanks science fiction too, I'd also recommend the Bolo series
Okay.
by Keith Lammer.
Keith Lammer.
Yeah,
Okay.
Laumer. Bolo, Bolo. It is the classic science fiction tank series. It basically has influenced anyone who's done any type of science fiction tank stories. It's influenced games. It's influenced other science fiction. It's influenced lots of stories. There was a professor here who actually was a good friend of Keith as well, but back in the day. But anyway,
Nice.
I just thought I'd throw that out to you. Again, it is when I hear science fiction and tanks, that's the series I think of.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
And it's over a series of like 1,000 years, so that it's a wide perspective of the basically evolution of technology. And
Okay.
again, it's a lot about the morality of the military. It's about basically sentient tanks and how they deal with that life, basically.
Very interesting, and the relevance today now more than ever.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
already exploring these tanks where the turret compartment is actually going to be fully remote, is where we want to eventually go, possibly. And
Mhm.
then, integrating AI with, fire control systems, the
Yeah.
prospects of that, the morality behind that for sure.
Anyway, I just throw that out there. If you're looking for something about science fiction and tanks, it's considered the classic series.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
You mentioned StarCraft. Have you played the Metal Gear Solid series?
Oh gosh, I wanted to so bad. I got into playing Metal Gear for one. Gosh, maybe it was like a one weekend jaunt, and I was still kind of figuring out the game, and I did not get too deep into it. It's been a minute since I fired up the Xbox, but
Oh, of
one of these
course.
times,
The,
and that's it was one of those what do you want to call it? They backwards mod it to the Xbox, so
yeah,
not the
the
original
back
game
compat
itself,
stuff.
but yeah, I'm aware of the Metal Gear series, and I'm ashamed to say I haven't been able to get deep into it.
No, hey, there's a lot of stuff, and I remember someone saying there's too much stuff for us to feasibly get into everything that we're maybe interested in. So you got to pick
Sure.
and choose your battles.
Yeah.
But you brought up something I think would actually interest you there with the ethics of like the use of private military forces as a component of war, not just like not a national army, but one that's like a proxy almost. That's a
Yep.
huge part of the Metal Gear Solid story, and it becomes more of a focus as the series goes along, where there are hardly any like national militaries or armies by like the end of the second game, and the beginning of the fourth Metal Gear Solid is entirely like every battle is proxy fought by proxy militaries that are entirely grouped by private military contractors. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, those games really do go into the ethics of using those and
Yeah.
what it means as a soldier to have autonomy to not have to fight based on nationality, and you can and fights can be chosen based on like what group you've chosen to belong to. So
Sure.
I think that'd probably be up your alley.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Anything else you got going on?
Yeah, I mean, on the professional side, everything else that goes on with taking on this director position, I accepted that actually just a couple of weeks ago. Before then, I was doing the military manager side, which eventually we're looking to hire on that someone to replace that role because we are physically expanding the department. When I say department, right now it's more of a program, and I am the program, but
Yeah.
eventually we want to grow this into where I would like to see this going is becoming a department that's going to help our military connected folks. Also take on some of the burden that our West College does with adult learning and the BAAS degree program. And then also just kind of find our piece in the pie with the rest of the university system. I think the greatest challenge is we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We're not here to necessarily take place of anything that's already going on here at MSU. I think what we're trying to do is, number one, serve a demographic that really, truly, a lot of universities will say, "Hey, we serve these folks, we do great things for them," but it kind of doesn't get too much far past some surface level services that come with, hey, just making sure you get your Chapter 33 benefits taken care of with the VA. And make sure you got whatever discount you needed, and then we just kind of wash our hands of it and let everything else kind of go from there. We really do want to build a community, be a part of that experience with our students that come through, regardless of what that sub demographic is within that military connected definition.
Yeah, I think that's especially with a base as huge as Shepherd. Like I think it's really important that meet that same community here as a university.
Absolutely.
Could you tell us a little bit about your career before getting into this side of things, before getting into this director position?
Yeah, absolutely. So before, before going to MSU, I was actually active duty Army. So I'm now in the reserves, but up until then, I've spent about 12 years in active service. Before coming to MSU, and maybe I can walk backwards from where I was at. I was a course director for the Reconnaissance Leaders School at Fort Benning. So basically, if you're going to do anything related to the scouting world, recon specifically, we taught the course for that for those platoon leaders, section sergeants, platoon sergeants. And then before that, I was a company commander for a tank company. Hence the significant interest into this book. And now going to look into Mr. Larmer with that tank series, and then before that, really was a tank platoon leader, pretty much in the tank world. Did everything with tanks for the better part of 5 to 8 years of that time. So a couple deployments, one to Afghanistan in 2013 to 14. Funnily enough, we were not on tanks; we were on foot, running up and down mountains and doing all kinds of fun stuff there. Interesting way we ended up doing that. And then 2 tours to Korea, where we essentially were one tour. I was outside of Uijeongbu, which is just south of the DMZ. My second and most recent one here in 2020, I was over at Camp Humphreys, not too far off, like it's about an hour north, a few hours north of like Osan. Um, so yeah, spent most of my time in the Army, active duty, in the tanker world, loving that, but really got to a point where I kind of hit a point where I wasn't going to be on tanks much longer on any given day-to-day basis. I mean, I already pretty much wasn't as a company commander. I was doing a lot of, working back and forth between a senior managerial role. As much as I loved that and getting to work with soldiers, I saw an opportunity to be a part of the university world, the academic world, when I got to be at Fort Benning and be a part of the schoolhouse there. Fell in love with that environment, and really just saw an opportunity to potentially chase after that. Wasn't necessarily MSU at first because I didn't even know about this position. I was actually looking at Shepherd with their course faculty developer positions that were out there. But when this opened up, I thought, man, this sounds really awesome. It sounds like an opportunity. It feels like an opportunity to help others, especially when my transition out of active service was very fresh on my mind. No one's transition is going to look the same. Everyone's got a different game plan to how they're trying to do it. And I think if you talk to your average person about the transition with coming out of active service, a lot of them will say, "Hey, I've got some significant scar tissue." Not that it's anybody's fault with, how it was done, but there's just challenges that no one really can prepare you for on the other side until you cross over. But it really does matter who's going to walk beside you when that transition is being made, or when you're on the other side and now you're trying to find your place.
Yeah, that makes sense. Plus, it's like it's one of those things where it's like it comes together so perfectly that it feels almost like it's this has to be where the direction goes. Is that how it felt for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to walk, like the idea of even looking anywhere else. Once I saw the opportunity that was here, and I really truly just thought, I've got to jump on this. And mad props goes out to one of my best friends growing up. His name's Lance Maxwell. He works over in IT. And he's actually the one who I think his mom might have seen the position first or heard about it, so told him, and then he told me, and from that point, I went ahead and put together a application and went from there, and the rest was history.
Yeah. Lance is the one that actually came and fixed my technical issues here with my
Nice, there you go.
computer. So yeah, yeah.
Sometimes I like to purposely break things so I can make him come back out and I can harass him. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not committing fraud, waste, and abuse. I swear.
Oh, that's what they're here for.
Yeah.
Right?
I I wish that we'd had this kind of program when my dad retired. My dad was Air Force, but he did he did a full career as active duty and then turned around and did a full career as civil service. Uh, and he was really irritated that he had 40 years of contract law experience because he was always in, they changed the name of the department, but it was like, uh, acquisitions or contractings or, same thing
Yes.
for 40 years and then got out of it and couldn't get a job because he
Yeah.
didn't have a degree.
Yeah, that really is. And talking to other folks who that same was, I think for that reason, there's so many different niches that people, when they see other people going in a direction where it's like, well, I'm just going to go like everybody else and just jump into either a contractor and somehow still work for the military in a roundabout way. In fact,
Mhm.
my old man, he was Air Force and he was stationed at Shepherd.
Mhm.
And the moment he got out, he turned around for a little while. He's trying to chase after an instructor contracting job.
Mhm.
And while he was waiting on that, he went back to working on aircraft as a contractor. So I think being within eye shot of the same areas he used to work on, wearing the green suit, as we like to call it, being a green suiter, but now he's over here doing contract work.
Yeah.
And I think it's to each their own because some folks that's exactly what they want. Hey, I want to get out and I still want to do mostly the same thing or be in the same realm of what it was I was doing before.
Yeah.
But there's some folks that when they get out there, I know for me, I was like, I'm going to make a complete pivot
Yeah.
and just go into a realm that number one, I think I kind of know about it, but now I'm learning, and so a little bit scary there with making a career change. But at the same time, it's really exciting, and the fun part is just really getting to see what tools that I've picked up along the way and how do I get to use them that can really bring an outside fresh perspective. And I think that's what up until we're starting to get better about teaching our veterans about that type of mindset and showing them how they can take their experiences and know you might not be able to find as a tanker there's nothing in the civilian world where you're going to get to be on tanks unless you get to go work for Mr. Hammer and go be a sci-fi tanker, for hire. But the vast majority of folks that are on tanks when they go to the civilian world, they got to figure out how to translate that leadership experience, the technical experience, and into something meaningful.
Mhm.
That can be challenging, but it can be done. It's certainly. I mean, I was blessedly able to be fortunate enough to find a niche out here. But really, truly, it's exciting to get to look at what are the experiences, and on top of that, what can I learn? What are things from the university world that I really truly is like, man, this is such a better way that we could have been doing this over in the TRADOC land when it came to Army training versus university academia.
I
Yeah.
will point out there is a very small niche of independently wealthy tank restorers out there. So
Oh,
you could supposedly, maybe,
yeah,
if you're very lucky.
right. Yeah, that's awesome. That would be a dream job and I've
Oh,
got to
wouldn't it?
meet
I mean,
some.
I see that all the time. People have posted on various bulletin boards, like, oh, here's a Sherman that we've been working on or something like that, or here's a Tiger we've been working on or something like that. They're just, I mean, I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be the life to do something like that for the rest of your life?
Oh, I know. Yeah, Fort Benning, they've got a tank museum out there, and they've got a couple, three or four retired tracked vehicle mechanics, and they get to play on all this stuff.
Hmm.
And he said, the biggest challenge is number one, everything, a lot of stuff is donor funded, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, getting to do their daily operations goes at a very slow pace. Um,
Also, parts, or we're trying to recreate
yeah,
parts and things of that nature. Yeah.
yeah, they're telling us about yeah, I was so glad you jumped straight to that. It's being able to either recreate parts that don't exist anymore, the manufacturers are gone, and so it's how do we try and backwards engineer and refabricate something, or can we find another
Yeah.
can we find another museum piece out there somewhere and pull that
Well,
part
that's
off?
the thing I've seen is that like the ones who are good at have like five or six of a tank just
Yep.
because out of those are five, six tanks, they can make one complete tank basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of causing a problem in just any kind of physically based restoration. Like if you want to be into preservation, at some point, God, how much is it worth to just like try to create a replacement part for something that just doesn't exist anymore? Like,
Yeah.
does that does that restore something to its original function if you had to completely redo something like
It's better than it used to be because at least now um we have technology that you can put a template into a manufacturing pod like thing and it will water cut out or will plasma cut out the piece you need sometimes. So it's better than it used to be, let me put it that way, rather than trying to basically hand manufacture a replacement piece.
Yeah. As you transitioned from your military life to your non-military life, did you have any issues with just having to trade in a more narrow view of like this is the way to a broader view of okay, I actually have options. There are a few things that could be done in this situation.
You know, it's funny for me. I think a lot of people do feel that way. And for me, I felt like that was part of why I did get out because, feeling like I was constricted to certain situations or models of which direction I could go with something. I really wanted to be an environment where I didn't feel as restricted.
Mm,
And so in one sense, it's almost kind of like that. That's kind of part of what was really truly felt like I was going swimming upstream, if that makes sense.
mm,
Part of it is, I took some advice when it comes to, hey, do you want to pursue a profession within the Army, the branches?
mm,
Do you want to do something that you're going to enjoy and have fun while you're doing, or are you looking for something that is going to have it speaks to what you're going to be doing on the outside afterwards? There's a lot of people who pragmatically approach the situation. They say, hey, look, I'm going to go into signal intelligence and or be a comms guy
mm,
because there is such a great job market waiting afterwards where you can take those skills, the certifications. There's a lot of things that you can do that the military along the way you're going to get that paid for,
mm,
and then you can maybe I would say if you relatively speaking seamlessly transition into those kinds of roles
mm,
as opposed to something like armor where hey look your pathway for the most part is pretty well prescribed unless you are courageous enough to want to take a leap off of what the beaten path is, but the well-worn path is hey you're going to be a tank company commander. You go on to your broadening assignment. I chose Fort Benning for the schoolhouse, but eventually go back to being a field grade officer where you're a major, you work with the staff, and
mm,
you're now a leader of those staff members that is serving that senior commander, usually in a battalion or brigade command staff element. Eventually, what you're trying to jockey for is a battalion command. So
mm,
it's the next level of command. You do that, and that's basically like the Super Bowl. The cultural idea of if you've made it in the Army was that you became a battalion commander, made it to lieutenant colonel. That is kind of like the cookie cutter idea of what a successful Army officer career is.
mm,
And then afterwards, everything you're trying to get bonus points for, right? That brigade command is another prestigious position that a lot of folks in the tank world that they start pursuing that.
mm,
And eventually, there's a certain point in time, you kind of know it once you're crossing between '05 into '06 to whether or not you might be a one-star material getting into that general officer realm, breaking into that piece. That just for me, it wasn't I couldn't see myself getting all the way up to general officer. At the end of the day, I'm here to serve if that need is there, and for whatever reason there was like this is just how the assignments kept coming. But honestly, I really do I see myself kind of working in a different capacity. So that type of personality, that type of mindset that you got to have to go into those roles, following where I was at, I just kind of looked at it. I was like, man, that just doesn't seem like me.
mm,
I like where I'm at over here. That's not to say that this isn't challenging. If anything, it's actually far more challenging than I dreamed it would be in some senses because it is the idea of not having. I can kind of make up my own left and right limits as to what I'm
mm,
doing here. And at the end of the day, if I'm asking that question of am I serving my military connected population out there, and the answer is yes, then it really, as cheesy as it sounds, the sky's kind of the limit on what we can do. That part is hard to sit there and say, okay, there are times I wish someone would be like, you know what, here are your three choices. Pick the best one of three and go with it. Otherwise, there are days where it's like, well, I'll bring something up to my boss and I say, hey, I'm thinking about this. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Go do that. It's like, oh, all right, I'm gonna go do it then.
And another thing also a lot of people don't realize about the military, it's hierarchical. So for you to get that higher position, you have to beat out two, three, four other people to get that position a lot of times as well. It's very competitive. And so, yeah, I can understand you wanting to go to something else where you can move sideways or diagonally, or, it's not for me to get this particular position, I need to beat out three other people who are also trying to get that position at the same time.
And to add on to that, Ryan, that's even in your evaluations. They
Yeah.
actually your
Oh, yeah.
rater
Oh, yeah.
has to put you rank three or two or five out of X many officers.
Oof.
And man, I'll tell you, I don't know who had it worse. I don't know if it like being the person getting the evaluation going, oh gosh, I'm like, you know, third from last, or the person that's got to be, I'm going through here coaching myself onto talking to somebody that is going to get,
Oh,
hey,
yeah. And then
you're the
if you
bottom.
don't make that promotion enough, yeah, you're just let go. I mean,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, not yeah, that's right. Not too many looks, and then eventually they send you off if you're not moving along into that progression. That's where it gets to feeling like it's like, all right, I feel like I've got to do a certain
Oh, yeah.
dance
Yeah. Yeah.
and execute certain things in a certain way. So it kind of, in some sense, like yes, we do say we want people to be creative, we want people to take risks, but it's also like, well, if I take risks,
And there's a lot of self-promotion and a lot of, yeah, yeah,
oh sure, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
You know, it takes all kinds, and there are so many things that I've already thought to myself I could never get in the military for, and it's the physicality and the discipline and having good eyesight, that kind of thing. But
yeah.
like knowing that you're constantly being ranked amongst everyone else, and that's part of your inner system there, yeah, that's horrifically anxiety inducing just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's and part of it is it is I chose a branch where the combat arms branches in general, they've got a lot of, it's all type A. I mean the infantry
Yeah,
by
yeah.
far that they take the cake when it comes to like everything's a contest. Everything becomes a contest when you talk to the infantry folks. But armor's not too far behind. We like to think we're cooler. But yeah, there's a lot of it's it is a fun profession. It was a fun thing that I really enjoyed doing, but there is also that element where certainly personality wise that I didn't always feel like I gelled the way that I get to do out here.
Yeah, because again, here all you have to do is try to do the best job possible. Your job is not. I'm not trying to diss the military, but your job is not. You've lost that thing where I have to meet these certain requirements all the time, and I need to be aware of that anytime I make any decision. Here, at least this is also true more so I think of Midwestern State University and a lot of other universities. It's like you said, you can go to your boss and say, "Hey, I want to try something different." Usually, your boss is like, "Sure, go ahead."
Yeah.
I've talked to other people at other universities that go, really? Your boss does that? You need to go through three different committees to try to get your little project going? I'm like, no, no.
And that
Well,
part
that
has been
and
such a blessing to get to be a part of for sure.
I've spoken to a friend who's just gotten into academia as well, and he was just blown away by how much kind of leeway he has and everything. I'm like, well, it's because you're not in life or death situations that you have to be like the best you can. Like there is a matter of like you're like people are not like, okay, do your job great or someone could die. Like there's that where it's like, oh, thank God I don't have to worry about. Yeah.
Really? Because I've heard some of our patrons, and they literally said they would die if they didn't get that article by next week.
Oh,
That might be a
well,
Gen Z thing. I'm still trying to learn their language, but yeah, I remember hearing someone the other day, a Gen Zer, and there it was something of like literally I'll die, and I looked at it, I was like, you understand what literally means, right? Like, how is your life in danger? But no, no, yeah, that's great.
so before we get too terribly long into this and we end up finding ourselves in a way where we have to like kind of quickly wrap up, I wanted to just allow our audience to know like what it is that your department is, what it's aiming for, and what it is that you're doing with this new crossover that's going on. that you're heading up. Just if you could give us kind of a rundown of what that looks like now and what it's going to look like maybe in the future.
Yeah, and you know what? I think a great way to segue with what it looks like now, and maybe I can go a little bit backwards to, how it's generally started and where we're going. But a lot of it really came on with Dr. Stacey Haney when the new president had come on, and she really looked at, hey, where's the university, and we're from a national perspective too about how folks are looking at universities and the culture and really just what is it that we think about it. And one of the things that we can see a continual, population that continues to grow, I think, are non-traditional students, the folks that go out and experience some of life, and then they come back to college, maybe for their undergrad, or at the very least, they're going into graduate school. But she recognized that MSU and really Wichita Falls kind of has an interesting Wichita Falls really is an interesting city in many different ways. It's a college town. It's a Air Force town. It's got this blend of rural and urban that you've kind of got all kinds of different identities that are being mixed up into that. And really, truly, the military in general kind of mirrors that identity, this clash of different kind of identities. It's a melting pot of people and backgrounds that we pull into. And so, started with, okay, well, how can we better serve our military community? Because that is such a big component. Right now, we feel like there's a lot of potential. We could be doing so much more. Obviously, there used to be an office out on Shepherd. And I'm still kind of pulling the thread to understanding, how it came to be that satellite office ended up getting the plug pulled on it. As I understand it, it was that basically the population of Shepherd students were starting to dwindle out there to a point that it costs more to keep the lights on. So it kind of became an economic decision to be able to cut that. Well, I think in doing so over time, it just kind of created a little bit of a gap with how I say a little bit, but a gap that we have all these folks with advanced skills, experiences, and they're hungry for knowledge. I will say is that from an Army person looking at to the Air Force, these people are smart. Their entry requirements are so much higher than what your average Army kid has to be able to show to be able to just get in, just on the enlisted side, let alone the officer side. And so we recognize that I think we can do so much more than just offer. And what started that was the scholarship program. So for the military side, we're looking at covering tuition assistance. You essentially apply for tuition assistance. That's where the government will pay for up to a certain amount. Well, MSU is going to cover that gap that's left over with that. So there's zero out-of-pocket costs for those active duty folks. That's pretty big because for a lot of folks in the military, you can't really pursue college until you get out, and then you're tapping into your GI benefits, GI Bill, Montgomery, whatever chapter you're going to use. A lot of cases you have to be out of service by then. Otherwise, tuition assistance really is the only route. Well, that scholarship that we pair with it allows for zero out-of-pocket costs for that. And then on the spouse and dependent side, that's another big component to it too, because a lot of those folks can't be eligible for those benefits unless the service member chooses to transfer them once they get out. So it's not even 100%. The service member may have to make a difficult decision and say, well, you know what, these were my benefits and I'm going to use them because I've got to make a career pivot. Maybe it's something like what I did. I've got to do something way different from what I was doing in the Air Force or the Army. And so I am needing to pursue an undergraduate or whatever that is. And now, my kids or my spouse, they're going to have to go a different route. The other challenge too is that there are so many different stipulations behind each type of benefit. It's also hard to be able to navigate those. Now, on the service side, we have the on-post or on-base education office, and that's what they're there for, is to help you navigate those different resources. What are you eligible for? They come at no cost to that service member or their family. But for us to be able to offer that as well with the scholarship piece. Again, we're just trying to cover some of those gaps and enrich the student experience that's out here and better serve our military population. There's a lot of other universities where they won't go any further, and it's nothing, nothing wrong about it, but they're not going to go any further than offering X scholarship, or really at the end of the day, hey, we're going to have somebody to help you navigate the VA paperwork so that you can pay to the government will pay for you to come to our school, but we're going to do nothing more than that. What we want to do is build community. We want folks that are out at Shepherd to feel like they belong here. I think that's been something we're trying to restore out here with those folks, so that when they do come to MSU, number one, it's well worth their while to do so, and number two, we really want to put our values forward in saying that yes, we embrace our military community. We appreciate what they do for us. As somebody who's no longer active, I really truly appreciate what the next generation of soldiers and airmen and sailors are doing for us, because yeah, the stuff that's coming down the road, frankly, some of it's pretty daunting and scary to think of. Just even talking about integrating AI into combat. Some of that stuff that is coming down the pipe, they've got a lot of stuff that they're going to be wrestling with, as our generation is going to sit back and be the ones to kind of watch this go down. And it just makes me ever more conscious of well, hey, how do we take care of them, whether that's before this next conflict, if heaven forbid that does happen, or hey, when they come back, how do we make sure we take care of them as best as possible. I do feel like when I came back from Afghanistan, I had nothing but open arms welcoming me back, and really truly I'm so thankful for just everything that the communities had opened up and given us, to reciprocate that gratitude. And it just makes me want to turn around and pay that forward.
That's wonderful to hear, and I'm glad that you do feel like it's a welcoming community here. Like that's something that I'd like to see happen as
Yeah,
well, because
that, yeah,
yeah, it's like you said, it's both rural and it's kind of urban at the same time, but it's also the fact that if someone were to look at the layout of the town, it's MSU way over here on like the I guess the kind of the southern side of town,
yeah,
and then Shepherd way over here on the north, separated by the highway and the overpass and everything like that. So allowing that to kind of like be more integrated, even though there is still that distance there, it does seem like that would help to grow the community a lot more than just having stuff between those areas. So I'm really glad to hear that that's a big part of the push for this.
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely, and I think too, for us to not only it's with Shepherd, Wichita Falls, MSU. I think by having like a triad of that relationship going on, we're trying to find wins for every single one of us, or at least if I can get two out of the three populations getting good wins out of it, that's what it's all about, to have those relationships going. You can't have a community without relationships, that holds true, I think.
Absolutely. Does anyone else have anything they want to add at the moment?
I have questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can just throw in. Um, because you were in the Army and you have some knowledge of the Air Force, um, this is just sort of a question coming from a place of not knowing the answer. Um, are the ranks in the Air Force and the Army equivalent, or is there weirdness in the way that they uh, is a captain in the Air Force have the same authority as a captain in the Army in their separate branches, or is there a discrepancy?
Yeah, so I love the way you package that, because there's nuance, right? And so the grades, the pay grades and the ranks, they are the same. Lieutenant, and what's even funnier is, outside of special duty pay, so a paratrooper gets jump pay.
Mhm.
So an airborne officer is going to get that extra $250 a month, because they're breaking their knees every time they go jump. But outside of some of those additional duty entitlements, the pay structure is the same. But what I will say is when it comes to expectations and the the roles that come with that, I would say, yeah, there's some nuances for sure because while a captain, regardless if someone's approaching you and they see a captain rank on their hat, you know that they have that same level of authority. But what I would say is that specialization, I think the Air Force does a fantastic job with how they really get their folks to become much more specialized and become subject matter experts in what they do. Not saying that the Army doesn't do that, but what I will say is like those Air Force folks, when it comes to that aspect of what they do and that technicality, it's uncompared when you see that. So some of the jokes that we put where the Air Force are a bunch of brainiacs and Marines and Army, it's usually something physical, caveman, type thing. Some of those are a little more true. But there's also that, for sure the rank structure is the same, the authority. There is, the question of like UCMJ. So when you get to take pay or take rank, those really come in and out of command positions and those type of things. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities with a few nuances in between those ranks. And then, yeah, that the enlisted side of the house, that's a whole completely different animal for sure.
And I'll just throw something in there as well, just to kind of answer your question as well, Joe. I don't know if you answered it fine, but this might have been also, this is another aspect of it as well. Because of NATO, there's a lot of different militaries across the United States, across the world that have to basically standardize their ranking systems. So, basically in a mixed campaign where there's different commanders of different countries. So basically who's in charge or who holds rank over that. So there is a standardized system for all the members of NATO. Now they have different names for everything, but the ranking system within it, it's usually something like what is it? OR number or something like that. And
Yep.
that's the officer rank of a specific number. And those are standardized across all the NATO members.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's great, Ryan. Yeah.
Well, you're confused because a captain in the Army is completely different than a captain in the Navy. That's just another thing that happens as well. So,
Well,
Yeah, that one for sure. There's yeah, Captain Army versus Captain Navy, two very different
yeah.
ranks for sure.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I know that you talked about specialization, and I do know that that's a thing, specifically with the naval thing about a captain. It's sort of like in a restaurant, the thing with the chef. Whoever's in charge of the boat is the captain, whatever their rank is. Whoever's in charge of the kitchen is the chef, whatever their, uh, culinary school background is or isn't. Uh, I had another question just about places that you've been through service or maybe even not through service, because you've gotten to go to a few different countries. And I know that I understand that when you're doing your job, you're doing your job, and that's your focus. But hopefully, you had times when you had some downtime and you could just explore your environment and get to go places or see things or do things in the area you were. Were there any cultural surprises for you or any real highlights of, oh, that's really cool. I'm so glad I got to see that, and I never would have if I hadn't been here?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll have to break that up into kind of two sides of that because one was on the job. It was in Afghanistan, and I was in the Zabul. I was in the RC South. We broke it up into four components: RC South, North, East, and West. And so I would go from Kandahar out to Zabul, and we would clear Highway 1 and make sure, there weren't any IEDs being laced on the main road as we were doing retrograde operations between Fob Apache, which would be on the RC South and RC East border in Zabul, and then the far west end would be Kandahar, where Kandahar Airfield was. And out in Zabul, when we got to a city called Kalat, there was a giant fortress on the upper part of the city,
Mhm.
not necessarily the full-on mountains, but it was basically, going up in elevation, and you see how that fort overlooked everything down there. And that's when I realized, and someone had told me, this is one of the forts that Alexander the Great had constructed during his campaign eastward.
Mhm.
And so that blew my mind. And so getting an opportunity to, do some patrols that was fairly close up to that fort. They have a cell phone tower stuck up in the middle of it, because it's up on the high ground, right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
But getting to see the East meeting the West in that kind of way from a historic perspective,
Mhm.
and then me kind of being a bit of a history lover myself, of just like, wow, look at us over here, a different military kind of campaign that's happening for ourselves, and just kind of the intersection between the West and the East again, in that. And so that was really, gosh, that's one of those where I still have pictures that I like to look at every now and then, and just look back on that, from that historical perspective. And then Korea, that one had blown my mind with just how advanced they are technologically.
Hmm.
Their internet is so widely available, where they have high-speed internet everywhere. And yet at the same time, it's you'll go from city to city, and you'll feel like you've been launched 150 years into the future compared to what I would know, relatively speaking. But in between those cities would still be those rural pockets where people are still living, very simple lives, in between all of that. And so to go from this, it was very jarring to kind of go from this, I'm not saying they were backwards or that they were living in the past, but to go from this rural lifestyle, walking to this train stop, hopping onto the train, ending up in Seoul, where that is just, it just felt like New York on steroids. Because I have been to New York City, I got to kind of compare and contrast.
Mhm.
And Seoul, it's wild as far as just what they have out there. It's a big, they've got countries and people from countries all over that are coming to Seoul for different reasons, businesses that are interacting out there. So just like New York City has Little Italy, and all these other communities out there, Seoul kind of has something similar to that. Some corner of like American expatriates and folks out there. So there's like this little slice of American soldiers that just decided they didn't want to go home, and so they'll retire and they go and live in Korea. And they just love it there. They've integrated into the society, and that's what they're doing out there. And so getting to kind of see that out there, and plus just the fact that, yeah, I'm in an Asian country. They have Hangul is the name of the language and writing that's there.
Mhm.
They're speaking Korean, but many of them can turn around and speak actually pretty well broken English. And then in so many different places where, and of course, the closer you get to an American base, you will see more of those English translations right by everything that's in Korean.
Yeah.
But they, again, very, very, just lots of talented people over there, incredibly smart. And that part was pretty wild too, getting to be in that corner of the earth, and getting to see that.
Cool.
A
No,
friend of mine had
that
his
fortress sounds
honeymoon in
amazing. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah.
a friend of mine had his honeymoon in, I think, Bangkok, I believe, and he just that's the exact thing that he said as well. Is like it feels like going to a city from the future at times.
Yeah.
That's wild to me. I'd love to visit that part of Asia. It just seems so fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun. They've got all kinds of stuff out there for sure, something for everybody. And like I said, very hospitable people, very very kind and welcoming.
Yeah.
Well, we're closing up on an hour here. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We try to keep the podcast as kind of close to that hour long mark. That way we can all kind of get out and do our own thing. Before I do, Joe, it looked like you had something to say, Joe, before I kind of got in there.
I was just going to passingly say, uh, my dad was stationed in Korea for an
Okay.
amount of time, uh, but it was not as an inviting a place
Hmm.
uh, at the time that he was there.
Sure.
Like my brother was stationed in Vietnam, but it was not a friendly place to be at the time that he was there.
Sure.
Just yeah. But yeah, we have some we have some plaques and maps and things that are like, it's like, oh, then it's like with service awards and things that were it's like, oh yeah, thank you for doing such a good job while you were here, kind of thing with my dad, and be like a
Yeah.
map of the country, and he's like, yep, I was there, and that's pretty much the whole story,
Yeah.
because yeah, but just a point of connection. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard a little bit about that place, but it was a very different circumstance. So it's not the same.
Yeah, well, and it's again, part of that was getting to broaden, and whether you like it or not, you join the military, you're going to go to other countries, and hopefully, those experiences like Korea, where we're here to strengthen partnerships and we're here to train with each other. That's the reason we're deploying, as opposed to war-torn World War III scenarios. We obviously. But at the end of the day, even in those situations, there's a clash of culture happening in between that, whether it, through violent means or what we're talking about with Korea. And really, truly, it's both humbling and really you get to see in many ways how Koreans can do something so much better, or like, man, like why don't we have something like that going on back here?
Yeah.
And you also get to just again just open yourself up to all kinds of different things, and that part has been such a fun part with being in the military. And I'll certainly miss that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, before we move on to the happenings of the community, I wanted to just tell everyone thank you for allowing me to entertain you with this podcast. Of course, now I would pretty openly say that Joe has taken this thing and made it his creature entirely. There's no way that I would have been able to get around to actually talking to people like our guest, Mr. Schutte today. But as with all things, I am going to have to completely hand the reins over and get out of here. Today is my final podcast. I am moving back to my hometown in East Texas. We've actually been wanting to do this for a while. We weren't really until we had kids, and in the first year or so, we were like, I don't know. I mean, we still like it out here, but um, it is incredibly difficult raising two toddlers with literally we literally have no family in the immediate area. My closest family members are a few cousins in Dallas and my stepsisters who also live in Dallas, but that's still hours away. And last year when my youngest was born, we kind of started to think like it's we need to probably get back home. This is difficult for us. It's difficult for our older family members who want to see them. So it's been a very long time coming for us, but yeah, I'm gonna miss doing this podcast. I've had a lot of fun here. I've had such a great time speaking to all of our guests and meeting so many wonderful people. But it's just it's just time to move on. I'm going to be the assistant director for the Atlanta, Texas Public Library, as well as the tech services librarian. I've been wanting to go back to being tech services for a very long time, and I started to do that this year, but this is going to be a wonderful opportunity. I'm so excited to do it. I'm really excited to get our kids back home and to have weekends where my wife and I can sleep in and not have children beating us with plastic toy hammers. So, thank you all for listening to me. I know some people have gotten really sick of me spending 67% of the entire podcast with just me speaking. I won't apologize for that because sometimes I love to talk, but I will say thank you for sitting through it. And with that, officially, Joe, I am handing the reins over to you as the new host officially of
Wow.
Club Moffat Talks.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that.
I also want to say something, Chris. We started this podcast, God, what was it, 5 years ago?
5 years ago, we've been doing this for 5 years.
And I want to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. I mean, we kind of had a dream to do this. it hasn't necessarily been a wild success, but we're still doing it 5 years later. So
The
we
fact that
must
we're
be
still
doing
doing
something
it.
right.
And
Maybe,
thank you for being my first and really longest co-host in this.
yeah.
There was that little bit there where you kind of pulled back a little bit, but thank you for through thick and thin for allowing me to continue doing this.
Yeah.
Because if it was just me, this experiment would have ended a long time ago.
Yeah, it would have. I think if it was just either one of us by ourselves, who would have ended this a long time ago. And by the way, Joe, thank you for coming in and fixing our mess because our first few episodes are a mess compared to when you came in and started like
I
whipped us into shape.
I appreciate that, and I will happily take a bunch of credit for the things that I have done. But I do want to just mention, if I haven't mentioned before, if it's been forgotten, a lot of the things that I implemented were suggested to me by Tasia, our first
Yeah,
outreach coordinator. Uh, Mateo Cross is our current outreach coordinator. He's the third one we've had. Tasia was our first one. And yeah, I was talking to her about just things that we could do in the library better or differently. And she gave me a list, and about 75% of it had to do with the podcast. And almost everything that I did that changed anything that you guys had already been doing was a suggestion that I got from her.
nice shout
So,
out.
but
Good shout out. Thank you, once again, like seriously, once again, thank you, Tasia.
absolutely. Um, that being said, I do want to talk about just a few things that are happening in the community next few weeks here. I'll go ahead and mention that next month on the podcast, we'll be speaking with Dr. Steve Garrison. So tune in for that. Also, just in the community, you can catch the show Beetlejuice Jr. at the Wichita Theater this weekend. If you're looking for new ways to unwind, this just sounds like fun, guys. You might want to try beer yoga with Heather. It's starting August 16th at the Wichita Falls Brewing Company. The Wichita Falls Museum of Art here at Midwestern is hosting watercolor workshops on August 26th at 5:30 and again on the 30th at 2 in the afternoon. The next after hours art walk is going to be downtown in Wichita Falls on September 4th. And Backdoor Theater is going to be having an evening of improv on September 13th. Now, if you'd like to get more information about those things or other things that are going on in our community, either at MSU or in the greater Wichita Falls area, please check out the events page of the MSU Texas homepage or the calendar at discoverwichitafalls.com/events. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for us, you can zap us an email. Just send it to library@msutexas.edu.
Is
And that's it.
Stephen, do you have anything else to add before we sign off?
No, for me, no. Thank y'all for having me on. And Chris, it's a shame that this will be our one and done with you, but I really appreciated that chance, and I do want to share this too. I'm excited to get to share the Tolkien universe with my kids down the road. They're 5 and 8, but when you brought that up too, I want to circle back to that and just give you encouragement that sounds awesome.
Oh
I
yeah,
want
it's
to do the same thing, and I want to see if we can get to where we can read through some of those books and then go watch the movie.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah.
the
I
way,
showed
yeah,
them the cartoon Hobbit first. The Rankin
okay,
Bass cartoon Hobbit, I showed them that first. And
Yeah.
if you can do a good enough Andy Serkis Gollum,
yeah,
that's
okay.
all it takes.
There you
Like you
go.
do that one and they're on board.
Awesome. Good. I'll be practicing. I got a little bit of time to get that figured out.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
As with
that.
anything with kids, good luck.
Yeah.
So we did the Harry Potter books with our kids, and we all sat in a circle in the living room just before bedtime and would read a chapter. And the first couple of books, my wife and I read each chapter, one or the other of us would read. But as the kids got older, they would volunteer to read a chapter for our nightly thing. And that was pretty amazing. That was
Oh,
great.
it's so fun.
Yeah.
Uh, Ezra, my oldest now wants she got a plushie Hermione from my mom,
Mhm.
because I think my mom went to like Universal or something, and she's still trying to pick up more difficult words, so she calls her my Miney.
Yeah.
So we'll be like, do you want to read Miney tonight? And right now, I think she would rather read Miney than she would read Bilbo. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
so it's interesting getting that
Yeah.
to like reading that to a child who's doesn't have the attention span for it.
That does make it more difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, from everyone else here at Moffat Library, thank you all for listening. And for my part, I'd like to say also thank you for listening, and Club Moffat will continue.
See you next time.
Yeah.